the mayor.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the reports that enemy planes are approaching. In less than 3 hours, an H-bomb might fall over Portland.
Like myself, I think you're going to be very interested in this story that we're going to tell you. And in this age of missiles and man-made moons, it takes on added significance. There are no actors in this story, but there are a lot of people. The people of the city of Portland, Oregon, and what happened to them, or could happen to them, on a day that we'll call X. This is the land, between the mountains and the sea, between the snow-capped crater of Mount Hood and the Pacific. It's tall timber country. And this is the city, largest dry cargo port on the Pacific coast. And its people are friendly and rugged in the tradition of the Oregon Trail. Population, about 415,000, more or less about the size of Hiroshima. And this is what happened, or could happen, on a certain day called X. The sun came up at 6:31. Joe Foteff was there to observe and chronicle the event. The paper, Joe noted, was a little heavier than usual, but naturally he didn't stop to read the headline. And Mrs. Frank Stufel, Portland housewife, mother of 5, was concerned at 8:02.
John, it's time to get up. You'll be late for school.
Children late and coffee boiling. And with these problems duly appraised, she turned to the woman's page of the Oregonian, thus managing to avoid the front page, which, after all, contained nothing but scare headlines. The time
is 8:27. Wake up, Portland. It's a wonderful day today. Stay tuned to KOIN for the best in music and news. And now, we continue our wake-up show with more transcribed tunes.
At 8:36, the population of Portland increased by 1. Timothy James made his first comment at a local hospital and settled down to life in the 20th century. Like all communities, religion is important. The people, like its church architecture, are forward-thinking. At 9, a special service is being held. And at the busy port, at 9:18, Ray Matthews, a longshoreman, loaded scrap iron bound for Japan. At 9:37, at the Central Fire Station, the men were busy with their morning chores, scrubbing hose, cleaning ladders, and shining the pumper. By 10 that morning, at the Harvey Scott School, the kindergarten class of Elsie McGlendon was much involved with the morning's activities.
Council will come to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Dean, Booty, Bowes, Earl.
And the twice-weekly meeting of the city council was much involved, too. A matter of sewer maintenance was one of the problems up for discussion. At police headquarters, the messages at 10:31 so far indicated 2 cars stolen, a drunken disorderly. An average day in an average American city.
Number 126, stolen auto 1425A,
126. Cat in a tree, 14 in Ankeny.
Except this day.
Driveway 12 in Ankeny.
This day is the one called X.
Attention all stations. Emergency.
This is an air raid warning and Conrad radio alert. Repeat. This is an air raid warning and Conrad radio alert. Enemy aircraft are over the Aleutians. Stand by for warning time. This is Western. Prepare to copy time information. Time to Seattle, 2 hours, 30 minutes.
Portland warning point. Air raid warning. Enemy aircraft over Canada and Alaska. Time to Portland, 3 hours, 15 minutes.
Thank you. I'll notify the mayor.
At 10:32, Jack Lowe, the city's civil defense director, receives the words. Enemy planes have crossed the pole. Probably they carried H-bombs. Likely one, maybe two, are headed for Portland. The mayor is alerted.
Clerk, gentlemen of the council, I've just received information that enemy planes are approaching this area. I just authorized the sounding the evacuation signal. The council will be in recess and we'll immediately reassemble at the Emergency Operations Center.
And so this day called X, which began in such an ordinary way, is no ordinary day. At 10:35, the banshee wail of the siren echoes the warning, and the city prepares for survival. Cities in the United States are considered critical targets, and Portland is just one of them. And it's so hard to know in advance how any man will react when that day comes. There will be those like Ben Conrad, the mechanic, who has heard the sirens before in practice, and who will disregard them. And there are those like Tom Cook who can't go. He's one of the power load dispatchers for all electric power in the Northwest. These men are expendable. Others can and do go.
The time is 10:47. This is a Conrad radio alert. Normal broadcasting will be discontinued for an indefinite period. Civil defense information will be broadcast in most areas at 6:40 or 12:40 on your regular radio receiver. I repeat, this is a Conrad radio alert. Normal broadcasting will be discontinued for an indefinite period. Civil defense information will be broadcast in most areas at 6:40 or 12:40 on your regular radio receiver.
When the siren sounds, some cities go underground, take to shelter, particularly if there's little warning. But Portland evacuates according to a well-thought-out plan. The question is at 10:45, on the day called X, will it work? Quietly, without panic, the city organizes, becomes immobile the best it can. Civil defense is not apart from normal city functioning. The same utilities involved in caring for a city in peace are those equipped to care for her in an emergency. And when the siren sounds, each man knows his responsibility. Public buildings follow a pattern well learned in practice. The idea, to move out of the city, to move fast, but with caution. Like other Portland mothers, Mrs. Stufel moves her family to a prearranged location outside the city beyond radiation range with necessary supplies. Timothy James and his mother go for an unexpected ride in a moving van in his first day of life. Now, at 10:50, in this hour of decision, the seat of local government is moved to a point some 6 miles out of town. Buried in a hill is a blast-proof, radiation-proof operations center where government can continue to function. Evacuation can be controlled, and if necessary, the city can be reorganized. The Portland plan revolves around the local government with Mayor Terry Shrunk its head. Government must survive if its people are to survive. Civil defense is government operating in an emergency.
Mayor now. Morning, Mr. Mayor.
Morning,
the situation looks pretty bad right now. We don't know exactly what's happening, but we do have planes over Alaska and Canada.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the reports that enemy planes are approaching. In less than 3 hours, an H-bomb might fall over Portland. Mr. Jack Lowe, our Civil Defense Director, will coordinate activities here. Jack, what's the situation?
Mr. Mayor, according to our latest reports from CONAD, enemy planes are still headed this way at 450 knots. That will put them just about there on the Alaska-Canadian border. I'd say we still have about 2.5 hours if Portland is where they intend to make a drop.
What's the condition of evacuation movement now?
Well, we have very scanty reports now because it's only been 15 minutes, but we can check with the police and with the traffic engineer and see if we get what information we have. I have no information yet as to how it's progressing.
By 10:55, the heads of utilities, Red Cross, Military Liaison, Civil Air Patrol, Weather Bureau, and all city departments are functioning as a civil defense team. While city commissioners and bureau heads remain behind working with their departments at the emergency seat of government, their families are among those evacuating. By 11, the operations officer is receiving reports on the evacuation of the city, and he is the reporter of the day, traffic, time, weather, and in the operations center's broadcast studio, the time is...
The time is 11:10. This is an official civil defense broadcast. Enemy aircraft are over Canada and headed this way. Normal broadcasting has been discontinued until after this emergency has passed. You are now tuned to Conelrad and will receive official information and instruction on this frequency. Keep your radio tuned to this frequency. Remember, there is a traffic plan for the evacuation of the city. All cars in the downtown area must follow the green lights. They will lead you out of the danger area by the quickest route. Do not try to cross the flow of traffic. Follow the green lights. Turn with traffic. Proceed with care.
John Carpenter, a sportscaster, becomes the warning voice. The people of Portland know his voice. Trust it. In 1955, Portland held a practice mass evacuation. The heart of the city was cleared in 34 minutes. It's safe to say that practice evacuation will be responsible for saving a great many lives this day. Should a bomb fall, many will be killed. The more that move out of the city, the greater the chances of survival. Pedestrians are helped out of the city. The great dangers are jam-ups and bottlenecks. Whirling over the city, a police helicopter reports traffic movement to the operations center.
Copter 1 to dispatcher. Copter 1 to dispatcher.
Copter 1, go ahead.
Barber and Slavin traffic moving very slowly, bumper to bumper. Suggest 1 or 2 lanes be diverted east on Hamilton. Over.
10-4, 1131.
And at 11:32, at the operations center, Police Chief Hildbrunner receives a suggestion, and with traffic engineer Fred Fowler, he works out a way to divert traffic. Motorcycle policemen are sent to split the load onto a side road. There's no way of knowing if Portland actually is an enemy target. But with 3 hours of warning and the time fading fast, it's vital that all roads lead to safety, that all roads be kept open, allowing people to evacuate from the potential target area. Meantime, county and state police halt and divert incoming traffic away from the target area. Should a bomb fall, fire and utility equipment must be available to move back into the city to restore services. And so trucks of all sizes and of all varieties speed to points outside the city by a detailed plan. By 11:45, the men and equipment have arrived at the dispersal areas away from the target. Auxiliary police and auxiliary firemen are also in action.
This is serious business, man. We anticipate a...
Operation Q was the name given the Nevada test in 1955, designed to explore the effects of small nuclear weapons upon buildings, towers, and equipment of many kinds. The nuclear device used was comparatively small. It had an explosive force of 30 kilotons, equivalent to 30,000 tons of TNT, whereas some modern thermonuclear weapons are in the 20 megaton range, 20 million tons, more than 600 times as powerful as the bomb shown here, and with a much wider radius of destruction. In this test, many of the structures damaged by the 30 kiloton bomb were approximately 1 mile from ground zero. With a 20 megaton blast, they probably would be obliterated, and comparable damage would occur out to a distance of at least 8.5 or 9 miles. Therefore, while Operation Q was valuable for research and test purposes, it does not reflect the full severity of today's larger thermonuclear weapons with their associated fallout hazard.
The Atomic Energy Commission's Nevada test site, I covered the story of Operation Q, a program to test the effects of an atomic blast upon the things we use in our everyday lives. As a reporter, I wanted to see Operation Q through my own eyes and through the eyes of the average citizen. I arrived at Civil Defense Headquarters the day before the explosion was scheduled to take place and checked in at once with an official for a briefing on the test. To give me a perspective of the entire test layout, a member of the Civil Defense staff showed me a carefully prepared model of the site. He explained the scope of the test and the detailed care with which it had been planned.
We begin with the question of shelter, for shelter might save the lives of those far enough from ground zero. But what kinds of shelter are effective? Several types are to be tested, from elaborate industrial shelters to a box-like family shelter in the corner room of a basement. In this frame house without a basement, 4,700-foot line, we will test a bathroom shelter built of reinforced concrete. The entrance door and outside window covering are designed to resist blast. Loss of power may be one of the biggest problems after an attack. Power poles, power lines, pole transformers, and complete substations are to be tested by the Edison Institute. We hope to learn the answers to these questions. How will they withstand this blast? How long will it take to make repairs? How soon can service be reestablished? One complete transformer substation is directed relatively close to the shot tower. A second substation and power lines have been placed at a much greater distance from the tower.
This, our country and all its people, could be in danger of nuclear attack. In minutes by enemy missiles. In hours by enemy aircraft. Our cities, our farms, our factories. Prime target would be our air bases. With all our aircraft on the ground, our weapons of interception or retaliation not instantly available, we might face another and infinitely more costly Pearl Harbor. To avoid surprise disaster, some of our aircraft must always be in the sky or on the alert, carrying nuclear weapons. These weapons are always unarmed. They will be armed only following a decision by the President of the United States. Only these ready aircraft with nuclear weapons can form our first-line deterrent force in peacetime. Our sure striking force in case of attack. We, the American people, understand and accept this necessity for our survival. But we want to know the facts about one question. Do we live in danger of nuclear explosion and radioactive fallout if one of these airplanes should crash, or one of these nuclear weapons accidentally drop? To give you the facts, the United States Air Force presents This bomber carries a nuclear weapon. It is a well-designed, carefully maintained, skillfully flown airplane. But airplanes, just like it, have crashed and burned. There was no nuclear explosion, no radioactive fallout. These are the facts. The bombardier watches over controls as safe as human ingenuity can make them to prevent accidental bomb release. But nuclear weapons have been dropped inadvertently. There was no nuclear explosion, no radioactive fallout. These are the facts. And specially instrumented aircraft verify these facts in a continuing nuclear safety program that tests our nuclear weapons under controlled conditions that simulate every conceivable hazard. Vital to this nuclear safety program is Air Force Special Weapons Center at Albuquerque, New Mexico. Here, in ultra-modern laboratory buildings, work scientists in and out of uniform. They work with the incredibly complex equations of nuclear physics, which derive from Einstein's famous relationship of mass to energy. These cryptic figures, programmed into lightning-fast computers, are the theoretical base upon which these scientists, together with those of the Atomic Energy Commission, can build nuclear weapon safety. By research, design development, and laboratory test, they ensure weapons not yet built against accidental nuclear explosion. They have been doing this successfully since 1945 in safety conferences with other Defense Department agencies and the Atomic Energy Commission. In 13 years, there have been a few accidents, but not one has resulted in nuclear explosion or radioactive fallout. These are the facts. What keeps our nuclear weapons safe? To understand why there has never been an accidental nuclear explosion, you must first know how these explosions can be produced, the general principles of nuclear explosions.
Any explosion is the result of a very rapid release of a great amount of energy. Conventional explosions result from the rearrangement of whole atoms in some explosive material. For example, in TNT, the rearrangement of whole atoms of hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen produces explosive force. On the other hand, nuclear explosions result from the rearrangement within each atom. This may be a joining together or fusion, as in an H-bomb, or the splitting apart or fission, as in an A-bomb. At present, an H-bomb explosion starts with fission, so the splitting of the nucleus of the atom is the basic principle of nuclear weapons. All matter is composed of one or more of the 100-odd elements. Of these, the atoms of the metals uranium and plutonium can be most readily fissioned to cause nuclear explosion. These elements are mildly radioactive. They emit short-range, low-penetration alpha particles while in their unfissioned state. These alpha particles do not have the harmful effects of the longer range and stronger gamma rays, which are given off by certain elements such as radium or by the products of nuclear fission. The atoms of uranium and plutonium are among the heaviest. Heavy because the nucleus of each atom